Dearest beloved divine friends and families, brothers and sisters in Guyana, the Caribbean, the concourse of humanity, fraternity of religions, in the diaspora, your brother, me, your friend, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan in the Raw, on RKs Guyana Free Media. As I salute my country, my God, the spiritual universal energies, I'd like to read you in the Raw an article which I had written and was published in yesterday's Chronicle in Guyana of the 7th Wednesday, October 2020. Crime is a permanent social phenomenon. And that is the reality of life, ladies and gentlemen. Crime has always existed, it always will. And those who are religionists, particularly as it has to do with the Judeo-Christian religions of Islam, Christianity and Judaism, we know the story of the Bible and the sons of Adam and the jealousy and the murder that took place, in which Cain killed Abel. And so I go to the article that was published in yesterday's Guyana Chronicle. Crime is a permanent social phenomenon. Crime is a permanent social phenomenon. Like other unethical acts such as murder, robbery, and even prostitution, criminals are finding ways to trick the system. As anti-crime mechanisms block the path of criminal propensities and preponderances, criminal and concomitant crime may evolve. Well, it's a concomitant, it's like going along. Criminals and concomitant crime, or crimes and concomitant criminals, they go along with each other, one to the other. And just like that, the vicious cycle of violence, be it white or blue collar, perpetuates. The consequences is that innocent, hardworking people, children, pensioners, business people, and the average man in the street are easy targets. At times, not just their valuables, but their lives are stripped away. In the case of home invasions, families are humiliated by having a wife raped in front of her husband, and children, their daughters, raped in front of their parents. Recently in the West Coast, Berbice, two 16-year-old girls were most viciously raped by criminals who were disguised as protesters during the latest tensions that escalated after the death of Isaiah and Joel Henry. And then later on we had Harish Prasad, who was also murdered. Sadly, these incidences were applauded by certain politicians. Yes, and it was sad, especially when one of them went up there and told the people that you're right. Your reaction was correct. That's the reaction of murders, rapes, chops, beatings, thefts, burnings, lootings, arson. Burning is of the truck, arson of the people's home and businesses. Your reaction was right. And so giving pluck to go and hurt innocent people just because they are of a particular race. Anyhow, that's a different matter. It's not in the article here, but the opposition leaders there at that time, they wasted a great opportunity to have become celebrated leaders of all the peoples of this country. They could have ended it all right there and said, listen, this must end right here and now. Let the police do their job. You all go home. They didn't do that. Till now, ladies and gentlemen. God bless Valda Lawrence, who went up, talked to the people, did a decent protest in Georgetown, and also the president who announced that he'll be bringing in the United Nations or the International Commission of Inquiry. But that's a different matter altogether. Back to the article. Sadly, these incidences were applauded by certain politicians. I'm not going to call any name. You know who they are. they will have to live with that for the rest of their life. And no matter what they do to try to hurt me in social media or in the news or to write the president or the prime minister or whoever they want to do, they can't stop the reality of what they have done. The only way they could end their problems, friends and families, is by accepting that they erred and apologize to the nation. How they will win another election, I honest to God don't know. Back to the article. When I see young people involved in violence, considering the many opportunities that exist in our country, it really hurts my soul. As such, I pen this missive to focus on young offenders on motorcycles and bicycles that prey on the most vulnerable in society. Recently, I wrote 2 letters in the media, We Are Losing Our Youths, Part 1 and 2, in which reference was made on the fact that many of our young people are dying from motorcycle and other accidents. It's a very sad thing indeed, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot afford to lose any of our youths. And many of them are caught up in crimes which lead to their death at the hands of the police or by the reaction of citizens. Additionally, many end up in prison, and in this way we continue to lose a valuable component of our population. I do not have the empirical numbers at hand here, but I think 80% of our inmates in prisons are young people. It is unfortunate that we have no mechanism such as boot camps to try to rehabilitate and motivate these young people to become active members of our communities. And to save them, ladies and gentlemen, my commentary from a life of destruction by going to what we refer to as the universities of crime or prisons. They don't come out any better. They come out worse. They come out at times having been raped and learning that time of social behavior and become gays when they were not gays. I am not criticizing or attacking anyone's sexual orientation or preferences, but in there, many youths are raped and then made into somebody's wife. The old experienced criminal in there take the youths and make them their wives, their woman in there. We want to save our youths from this. Recently, we've seen in the newspapers, ladies and gentlemen, 3 young men who were remanded. They're habitual thieves and criminals pouncing around the car parks, around the Starbrook area and the various car parks and robbing people, and they've been caught now. And they were refused bail and put on remand. And they look very sad and look so nice, young, handsome young men. It hurts my heart. Yes, they are Afro-Guyanese, but we also have youthful Indo-Guyanese involved in crime and such kinds of things, robbing and stealing and beating and chopping and so on. It's a problem that goes across the aisle. All the races have some people who are evil and despotic and bring shame upon our country. But I'm talking about these 3 particular Afro-Guyanese youths. Good looking, smart, bright boys, nice. I think if we had an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, if we had an opportunity to rehabilitate them. One of my colleagues in the ERC was saying this morning, and he meant well, that they don't have jobs. And I say that's not true. It's that they have gotten soft. They don't want to work mixing cement. They don't want to go in the cane fields. They don't want to go and work in the farms. They don't want to go and work in the sanitation companies. So they dress up very nicely and they go and rob people. They've learned to be lazy, and they learn to not liking to sweat and to work hard. So now they go into prison and they have to give free labor in the prisons. It really hurts me, these boys. You see, ladies and gentlemen, many of you are asking, why is it Haji, Dr. Rushin Khan is always speaking so much of Afro-Guyanese positively? It's because I grew up with Afro-Guyanese. My teachers, my first teacher was Miss Tom in Skeldon, now Corriverton. My other teachers, Mr. Peters, Mr. Leach, Mr. Boston, Miss Ross, Miss Jem, Miss Tyndall, all Afro-Guyanese. They have made a tremendous impact in my life and my heart. And this is why I speak the way I do. I learned the language and the accents from them. And I dress the way I do, taking off this and the style that I dress, I'm always complimented. It's my Afro-Guyanese mentors of class that educated me. So this is why some of you who ask why I'm always glorifying Afro-Guyanese, this is why. And because they're an important component in society. And when some people will see that they rob and they cheat, well, we have Indo-Guyanese who are by far worse than them. Some of them most cruel as well. Most cruel Indo-Guyanese, sometimes your own neighbors set you up. Sometimes your own Indo-Guyanese nephews set you up when you're coming to the country to repair your homes or to do some business and get you robbed. So, crime and criminal mentality, ladies and gentlemen, friends, it doesn't have race or ethnicity. Every race, every religion, every part of humanity, we have evil and we have good people. Thank God, more good than evil. But I'm speaking particularly about these three boys that we have seen in the newspapers recently because it hurts my heart. And I know there are some Indo-Guyanese, particularly in the quarantine area, who are in prison too for many, many kind of similar robberies and thefts and break and enter. And in the prisons today, in the High Court, they said 2/3 of the cases having to do with rapes, and many of them are Indo-Guyanese. So crime and criminals doesn't have race, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the article. I know there are police commissioner and administrative heads of police departments such as criminal investigation department are all brilliant and wise people with experience. They must have thought about what I'm about to say. If by chance they were exhausted by the recent political madness that we have encountered, it is my hope that they will now try to read and listen to me and concentrate their attention on these matters that I'm deliberating on. Recently I saw an incident in which a police officer was mugged and beaten on the road, and another was robbed of his bicycle. Yet another was also robbed of his motorcycle. Many male and female police have been mugged on the roads. This is complete nonsense. If you were to ask me that our Guyanese youths who have turned offenders do not even value the uniform of a police personality, failure to honor the uniform of a police officer is one of the worst examples of lewd conduct that people may have. The lack of respect on the part of the police itself reveals decadence in the mental behavior of people stealing or inflicting blows on the police. People beating police. Can we imagine this? Beating police. As far as this is concerned, I am of the view that a fund needs to be set up to provide incentives or benefits for people who carry information to the police. Well, we know that they have police informers and so on, but those are career informers. You need, when somebody reports a certain thing that turns out to be profitable to the government or to the people, then they should have a special fund. And this fund could be financed by approaching and having certain events like gymkhanas, barbecues by the police in various districts, and asking the private sector for some contribution and funds to contribute to this fund of paying people for bringing in rewards out of the career police informers. As for those who are uncomfortable going to the police, they could approach individuals identified by the police as liaison to the police in different communities. They may be offered a stipend or a grant of some kind. Some of them might prefer a certificate of recognition so they can put in their resumes or get an honor in the newspapers. Back to the article. Respected Commissioner of Police, Crime Chief, and the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Bend, I wish to also highlight an important issue. This issue being that there is a gang of motorcycle offenders working day and night in rotational shifts. These criminal elements seem to have their own zones of activity. To my understanding, the different teams seem to be interconnected, particularly at nights. And they will target a motor car or a driver or a motorcycle. In general, several of these victims are security supervisors. The bandits normally call on their colleagues in various zones to block the driver or to circle the security supervisor, the police, or the driver. In recent times, I've had cases where 2 supervisors have been assaulted and have lost their motorcycles. Thank God their lives were spared. It is not easy to be knocked off a motorcycle. Not only does it cause injury, but also psychological distress and fear in the minds of these victims. And lo and behold, even police officers are now being targeted. I am of the view that in order to assist in catching these young, seemingly good-looking, well-dressed robbers, is to have undercover cars make regular patrols in the city. Marked police cars or volunteer citizens vehicles and/or volunteer security services patrolling with the police to stop and search. Most of these groups are armed with guns, so the police must treat them with great caution. They should be approached in a way that does not give them a chance to reach for a weapon, but done in the American way: arrested, handcuffed, and then checked. Of course, if they are found with nothing, then they are told to go home, return home, or take them into the police station to inconvenience them a little bit. Back to the article. The police must use the excellent training given to them by the police training and training schools that continue to evolve in terms of the needs of the country. I know some bleeding heart liberals are going to object to this, but I doubt they will object if they were brutalized, beaten, robbed of their belongings, and if their wives or girlfriends were to be raped and humiliated. So bleeding heart liberals, please keep quiet. I'm not going to say the words of former Minister Ram Jatan, but I'm going to say, haul yourselves in a corner and shush. When taxi drivers and citizens travel around in their cars or in a mode of any transport, they should be encouraged to keep emergency numbers on their phones. If their phones are stolen, then they should also keep, or they're afraid of it being stolen, they should write them on a piece of paper or a book to call in and report these groups or gangs who are loitering in areas looking for an opportunity to pounce upon innocent and hard-working people. Sometimes I wonder why these people dwell in such strategic corners on motorcycles late at night when there is no party or event taking place. They are obviously looking to target innocent, hard-working, decent Guyanese going to work and coming from work, be it security personnel, police personnel, or citizens of the nation. They could also have policemen on an attractive-looking motorcycles at nights moving around, but with special communication devices that the officer could communicate in case people started to follow him, and they could use an opportunity to catch these guys. The other major concern that tears my heart out is violence against children and the elderly. Old, mature people earning their bits of pension are pursued and deprived of their pittance as they collect from the post office, or having been targeted as they enter their homes. When they reach their homes, young offenders on motorcycles and on foot stop and rob them. Old people are being targeted, ladies and gentlemen. Terribly. Women going to the market, to the shop, walking, going home. People coming down, walking in Georgetown. Young people early in the mornings. So the police need to be patrolling constantly and stopping these youths on the road and see if they have weapons and so on, and knives and so forth, and to answer where they're going and what they're doing. Create an inconvenience for them. And at times knocked down viciously and robbed of their cell phones, bags, and valuables. As you may recall, dear citizens of Guyana, recently in Border, Georgetown area, 2 older women in a hope were raped, murdered, and items stolen by youths who have been identified and are now facing the courts. This lack of human dignity and humanity hurts my heart. One has to ask, what is going on with our country? Are we losing our souls? Recently, I saw an old man crossing a bridge. And when he crossed the bridge, two opportunistic young offenders passed by, held up the poor old man, limping with a stick in his hands and his back bent, and forced themselves into his bag, taking away all his valuables and bits of change. This money may have been his dinner or his food for a month. What saddens me is to realize that these old people have served throughout their youth and have contributed to our country. I think that our old people deserve credit, care, and love. They were expected to help him by taking something out of their pockets and offering it to him. We also see these young offenders targeting the poor, most of whom have mental problems and are sleeping on the streets. Many of these people are frequently abandoned by their children, many of them because of domestic problems, resort to drugs and alcohol and decimate their lives. They are known for begging for food and change. Many dishonest employers, some in certain security services, and a particular one that changed its name after being forced by the GR to shut down, is renowned for these kinds of behavior of denying people who work for them their NIS protection. And so that is why a lot of them are on the streets. They're beggars. They have mental issues too. They need help. Back to the article. These young people need to be put in their place by instilling some fear into their hearts. This could be done by detaining them, frightening them, and most of all by using the first concept in the prevention of crime, which is prevention. Regular patrols, delaying, detaining, and calling them into question with their suspicion so that they would be afraid to leave their homes and stay at home with their friends and eventually learn how to make a good living could also be integrated. Criminality of young people on bicycles and motorcycles is, in my view, a significant form of criminal offense. There are several cases in Georgetown where tourists have been robbed by the seawall or while walking on the streets in Georgetown by bicycle bandits. They were savagely robbed of their money while trying to help our country and our economy. Robbed of wedding rings, valuable documents, and laptops. Where this is concerned, we ought to have special laws in place for anyone who robs a tourist, whereby the punishment will be tripled immediately. I wish to use this opportunity, friends and families, ladies and gentlemen, as I did before, to call on the government to realize that we need to create a three-strike law. By this I mean anyone who commits a crime 3 times in their lifetime, particularly in armed robberies, they should be made to spend the rest of their lives in jail doing hard labor. We do not have this system in Guyana, but we should learn from Trinidad, where inmates for the rest of their lives work to contribute for the well-being of their victims and by also paying for their own security, nourishment, and hotel fees by hard labor. Hard labor is important. At this juncture, I wish to state that I offer myself as a volunteer to create this group, board, or committee managed by the police or the Home Affairs Ministry to help our country prepare this plan so that we may save our youths and protect our nation. Sincerely, your friend, your brother, me, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan, saying thank you, my friends, for listening to this and saying farewell, friends.